Welcome to episode 22 of the Gentle Knitter podcast. My name is Nicole and I'm coming to you from Ottawa, Ontario. Today is Sunday, March 18th, and I hope you're doing well. I've been fairly busy with work as usual, but when I'm busy at work, that often means that I get a lot of knitting done because when I get home, that's sort of all I have energy for is to, cozy up and work on my needles. So I have a lot to show you. I have some finished objects, some works in progress. I've got a couple of publications that were sent to me for review, so I'll talk about those, as well as a book that I got for my birthday that is so good, and I want to tell you about it. And I will also announce the winners of the giveaway that I talked about in the last episode. So I have 5 different prizes that are prize packages that I'm giving away. And a huge number of you entered. We had 836 entries to the giveaway. And my prompt was, what knitting technique would you like to try in 2018? And it was really awesome to read all of your responses. I got a lot of people wanting to try 2-color brioche and steeking. Those were the 2 most popular techniques or answers that I got, which is very appropriate because my 2 finished objects feature steeking and also 2-color brioche. So why don't I get into my finished objects and yeah, we can start the episode. So first up is the elephant in the room. I finished my beautiful Gameldag sweater by Helen Magnuson. It's a lopa pesa, so it's a lopi, kind of a traditional Icelandic lopi sweater. And I showed, last time I recorded, I had the body and the sleeves done, and I had just joined them together to knit the yoke. So I knit the color yoke, and then it was all knit in one piece, and then I steeked it. So I cut it open to create a cardigan. And after that, you pick up stitches to knit the button band, and I did that, and then basically just did the finishing. Like I mentioned, a lot of people talked about wanting to try steeking, but feeling like they were not yet brave enough to take it on. And I'm here to tell you that steeking is one of the easiest things you'll ever do. Really, it's a scary concept, but in practice, it is so easy. Particularly the way I did it this time, which so my middle stitch, the place where you want to cut, what I did was I worked that one stitch as a purl stitch, and so when it came time to cut it open, I turned it inside out, and so you could see this one row of knit stitches against the pearl background. So it's super easy to see where to cut and to cut a perfectly straight line. And in fact, before cutting, what I did was I secured my stitches by running one line of stitch on either side through my sewing machine. And again, because of that column of knit stitches, it was really easy to see where to sew. And then because that was sewed down, those, when you cut, it's not going to unravel, nothing is going to move. You've got your edges are very secured with that running stitch machine stitches. Ugh, that's hard to say. Machine stitches. Of course, if you don't have a sewing machine, you can also, there are other ways of securing your edges. you can do a crochet chain, you can do hand sewing. There's different methods, and so if you look it up on YouTube, you'll find a number of tutorials that show the different techniques. But basically, once all of that's done and I knit the edge stitches, the button band, I finished the sweater by sewing. I'll show you up close. I sewed in a fabric tape. So this is bias tape, and it was just to cover those basically the fringe of, you know, that cut stitch. You know, those little ends kind of end up on the inside of the sweater. So I like to cover that with a ribbon or bias tape, just to make it look extra tidy. And this is really pretty linen, or not linen, but bias tape that I bought in Paris many years ago, and I just hand sewed it in. And I also did backing buttons on, just so that my buttons have a little more, it's a little sturdier when the button pulls. It doesn't pull on the knitting as much because you've got the support of the backing button. The buttons I used are these metal buttons that I bought. Actually, I salvaged these from a thrifted cardigan that I bought eons ago. I don't even remember really what the original sweater looked like, but I kept the buttons because I thought they were really cool looking. To me, they're kind of like, they look kind of Viking-ish, so I thought it was kind of appropriate for an Icelandic sweater. And I'm so happy with the results. I love Lopi. I love the way it knits up. I love the way it wears. It's not the softest yarn in the world, although it doesn't bother me at all. I wear it, I've got short sleeves under here, so it doesn't bother my skin at all. You may feel differently, but I just feel like it feels woolly, but it doesn't cause me to feel itchy. It just has a sensation, a woolly sensation. But I really like it. I would do one thing differently. I did do short rows in the back, the ones that the pattern calls for, but if I were to do it again, I would probably add extra short rows because I still find it to come down a bit low in the back. But you know, I'm still very, very happy with it. I've been wearing it nonstop. It's been pretty cold here, surprisingly. It had gotten quite warm during February, and we actually lost most of our snow, but March has been actually, we've gotten a lot of snow, and it's been quite chilly, so I'm not complaining. It's given me a few more weeks of woolly goodness, so I will take it. But I know everybody around me is sick, sick and tired of the winter. But anyway, so that is the first finished object. I will show you my next one. This is something that I also talked about in my last episode. I had kind of gotten maybe a third of it done, but it is finished. And it is my What the Fade shawl. And it is huge. Let's see if I can show the entire thing. Yes, the What the Fade by Andrea Mowry, and it features 2-color brioche. So last time I had shown it to you, I think I was maybe somewhere around here. So I knit it more or less as the pattern is written, except that The pattern does call for more brioche to go a bit lower, and if you recall in my last episode, I really didn't want to brioche this section, this yarn, because I love it and I wanted it to just be on its own and not broken up by the brioche. So the brioche, like I said, is a little bit shallower, but I think I like the proportion of it actually. The other thing that I did differently is, and this I would probably not do again if I were to knit it again. Okay, how do I explain this? In the brioche section, once you're fading, once you're going into a new color, because of the way brioche, two-color brioche is done, you're working each row twice with each color. And so when you're changing colors, you are always, it's always a two-row. If you're going to alternate, it's always a two-row process. So you're always going to get, you know, like I started fading the darker color, so it's 2 rows and then 2 of the lighter and 2 of the darker and 2 of the lighter. But once you're in the garter, the way the pattern is written is you would basically only work one ridge of one color and one garter ridge of the next color. So you would end up with just one line of each. But I thought, well, if I wanted to mimic this, I would have to do 2 ridges, which is what I did. And I like it. It's a more striped effect, and it does mimic what's going on here. However, it's missing that really subtle fading effect, especially in this, because the contrast between the last color and the middle color is more pronounced. And I really like the stripes, but I do feel like it's not as subtle, and I really like that about the other, when I look at other fade projects, I like how it just ends up being really, really gradual. And I kind of wish I'd done that. Now, I could rip back and do it that way. I would only have to rip back up to here, but do I think I'm going to? No. I still really like it the way it is. And maybe I'll do another fade type of project and do it that way, and that'll be lovely. But I'm kind of done with this project. I like the results a lot, and I have worn it. I will be honest, you know, there is a reason why I am sort of steering away from superwash wool. It feels, to me, and I don't want to, I hope I'm not insulting anybody when I say this, but it feels plasticky to me. It doesn't have a wool feeling. It's slick, and I just don't like it that much. I mean, I like it a lot. I shouldn't say I don't like it that much. I don't like it as much as I like woolly wools. It's undeniably beautiful. Superwash wool dyes incredibly beautifully, and especially this one yarn here that I talked about, and it's really, this is not doing it justice, but I don't know if you can see how beautiful and subtle. There's yellows and pinks and purples and little pops of color here and there that are really gorgeous. Like here, there's like a pop of orange and yellow and blue, and oops, my notebook. And you know, there's no denying that superwash wool is really gorgeous. And I actually really quite enjoyed working with it, just to kind of see those little subtle hints of color coming up. You can probably see really well there how pretty the yarn is. But it feels a little fake to me. It feels, I don't know. It's beautiful. Don't get me wrong, I have been wearing it, and it's very soft. It's really nice. It's not warm though. And if I was living in a hotter climate, I probably would really enjoy that quality of it, not being warm. But, you know, it's not where I live. I live in a very cold place. And it's too big to wear. Like when it is hot here, it's really hot in the summer. It would be way too big to wear. So anyway, it is what it is. It's really beautiful. I'm glad I knit it up because I love this yarn. I love the quality of the colors, and I will probably, you know, like I will continue to knit down my superwash stash, but it's definitely confirmed to me my feelings about superwash, and so anyway, there is my What the Fade by Andrea Mowry. The yarns I used, there's a peachy tone in here. You can see it kind of on the edge there. That is Hedgehog Fibers. Then I've got some the kind of the back of the brioche, sorry, is Vine Poe. And then these beautiful subtle colors are all Viola. And this is Ghost Garden. This one does not have a name, and this one is Moon Rock, I believe. So there you go. Lovely. I love the subtlety of the colors, and yeah, it is a lovely piece. So I will keep wearing it for sure. So that's that. The only work in progress that I have to show you this week is a shawl that I started. It's kind of the antithesis of my What the Fade shawl, in that it is super rustic, super natural, very, very simple, but I absolutely adore it. I am housing it in this beautiful new project bag that my sweet husband bought me for my birthday. It is a gorgeous knitting project bag by Beaucoup. So my friend Aruna designed this gorgeous silk-screened pattern. It's topped with wax canvas, and then it's cinched with this beautiful leather toggle. And inside is a shawl that was designed by Melody Hoffman, who is Mandarines, and I've mentioned her many times on the podcast. I absolutely adore her podcast and her the videos that she puts on her Patreon. I'm one of her Patreon subscribers, so I get to see all of the extra content that she puts in there, and I highly recommend it. It's definitely worth supporting her to see that stuff, and also to get her patterns. It's funny because I've been a longtime fan of hers, and I adore pretty much every pattern that she's ever designed. Is one that I absolutely want to knit. But for whatever reason, I had never knit any of her projects or of her designs. But it was time. And so I have cast on the Betula shawl, which is this shawl here. And I'm actually, it's literally knitting itself because I am almost done and I started, I think, 2 weeks ago. But it is a shawl. Let me talk about the yarn first. It's knit in this beautiful yarn by Retrosaria, and the yarn is called Beiroa, and it's Portuguese yarn, or Portuguese wool, and it's made in Portugal. And it is this really pretty single ply yarn that has gorgeous natural tones. It kind of shifts from a pale creamy white to a brown, like some really dark grayish browns, and everything in between. I love it. I love how it kind of looks hand spun, and it's very soft, but it's woolly. It definitely feels like wool, but it's not prickly at all. And knit up, it is just so beautiful. It just has these natural stripes of the different colors, and I love the pattern. It's super simple. It's some garter ridges, and then once you're done the main body of the shawl, you work a short row garter wedge at the end. So there's 2 wedges of garter that basically make the shawl wider than it is deeper. And I really like that kind of construction because I like a shawl that kind of acts more as a scarf, and when you have more length than width, it has that, it wears in a really nice way. So yeah, so like I said, quite easy, fairly almost mindless really, but really beautiful and very light and warm and woolly. It smells good. It's just it's a really lovely yarn. I've just enjoyed every stitch. So that's the Betula shawl by Melody Hoffman, and I suspect that it'll be finished next time I record. Next, I wanted to talk about a couple of publications that were sent to me for review. First, I got a digital copy of Socks 2018 by Making Stories, and this is a really wonderful collection of sock patterns. There's 7 patterns in total, and what's special about this collection is all of the socks are knit. The patterns are designed for natural, non-superwash sock yarn. So of course that is very, very interesting to me. And I mean, even if you didn't want to use non-superwash yarn, obviously you can still knit these patterns, and they are very beautiful patterns. I'll show you a couple here. There's a pattern by Linda Dubec, and it's called the Arising Socks. I like those. You also have socks by Becky Sorensen. I really love these. They are cabled socks. Becky has been on a roll lately, designing lots of really beautiful patterns. If you don't watch her podcast, Soprano Knits, and she's on YouTube. I really love her podcast, and yeah, she's really great. So check her out. These are also really pretty, the Source socks, and yeah, I really love all of the patterns in here. What's great about this is, like the Woods Making Stories book, there are articles or like interviews with all of the designers. There's also articles about how to knit socks, how to read a sock pattern, how to choose sock yarn, natural sock yarns. So this Tough Socks Naturally article. And so I really appreciate that, giving us those options and ideas on where to find natural non-superwash sock yarn. Of course, when you knit non-superwash socks, you're gonna be washing them by hand, but really washing socks it literally takes a minute to do. So I'm thinking that I might start transitioning into buying non-superwash sock wool and just getting into the habit of doing a hand wash once a week of socks. This book is a really great way to encourage me to do that. I have some non-superwash sock yarn in my stash. I've got this skein of Mondim, which is actually done by the same people that do this yarn here. It's a Retrosaria in Portugal, and it's a really pretty natural yarn that's got little black speckles. The color is 209, and this is also a very soft yarn. I'll be casting something on from the Socks 218 book. I'm not sure which one I'm going to choose yet, but I will let you know how this sock yarn wears, and I'm curious to see. I'm hoping that I am happy with the results, because it would be nice to, like I said, to transition to more natural yarns. I was also sent a copy of the new issue of Laine magazine for review, and you guys, you know how I feel about this magazine. It is really hands down the best knitting publication in my view. I just absolutely love their aesthetics. I love every single pattern in this issue. I want to knit them all. And I love the articles. It is just really beautifully, beautifully done. The photography is outstanding. It's very moody and arty and natural. It's right up my alley. There's this incredibly beautiful pullover called the Magnolia pullover by Camilla Vad, and the detail on the bottom of that sweater is so gorgeous. I mean, everything is so beautiful in this magazine. Even the ads are just to die for. And oh, by coincidence, they always have a page of their favorite things, and here are some, I guess some just little notions pouches by Beaucoup, by my friend Aruna. They have impeccable taste. They always choose the most beautiful things. There's the Kate cardigan by Libby Johnson. I will say one thing, if I had one little criticism or suggestion to the ladies from Laine magazine, is sometimes the photos don't always show all of the detail, and it can be a little hard to see exactly how things fit. Like, for instance, these really beautiful socks by Helen Stewart. The fragment socks. Just the way that the foot is, you kind of have to look at it carefully to see all of the details. But I don't know. Like this one too, where she's kind of leaning over a counter, and then the next picture is this. And so it's a little hard to imagine how the whole sweater looks. You kind of see some pieces of it. But then again, there are schematics that show you, what the sweater looks like. So In fact, I shouldn't call them schematics because they don't have the dimensions, and that would be another thing that would be very useful, is if they would include the illustration that shows what the sweater looks like, but with measurements on the actual illustration. They do have, obviously, they have the dimensions of the sweater, you know, finished measurements for bust, arm, circumference, sleeve length, and hem length, or body length, I guess, and neck. But I always find it helpful when those numbers are attached to the illustration. But those are small quibbles. I still think this is by far the best knitting publication out there. There's also a pattern by, speaking of Melody, by Melody Hoffman, and it's a gorgeous shawl called Shibui, and it's knit in Plotulopi, which is the thinner unspun Icelandic wool, and hers is a really beautiful ombre version, so it calls for like 4 or 5 different colors of Plotulopi, kind of worked in a gradation. So, like I said, I really couldn't recommend this highly enough. It is pricey, but if you're like me, you're gonna like every single pattern in it. So really, when you price it by how many patterns there are, I think it's a good deal. And it's the kind of thing that you leave out on a coffee table, and I just like to look through it regularly just for inspiration, for color inspiration. It's yeah, it's really lovely. It's got an interview with Jared Flood too, so that's really cool. Anyway, Len Magazine, thank you ladies from Len for sending this to me, and I will be giving a copy away. So this is kind of another little giveaway that I'm doing. So if you go to the Gentle Knitter group in Ravelry, you will see a Len issue 4 giveaway thread, and maybe for this one I will ask you to go to the Ravelry page for this issue and tell me which pattern you're most interested in knitting. So we'll do that. So when you go to the group, please enter in to win a copy, and I will draw it in my next episode. In my works in progress, I forgot to mention some spinning that I have done, and this spinning in particular is kind of a long-term project. I've got 2 pounds of this gorgeous Shetland that I purchased many years ago on Etsy. I will look up, I forgot to do it before I recorded, but I will look up the source of this and put it down here, but basically it's just a dark grayish brown fleece that has been carded. It's super, super soft and very lofty and very beautiful. And I have 2 pounds of it, so I have always wanted to spin a sweater's worth of yarn, so that is what I'm working on. So I just started, and I am very happy with the results so far. I'm spinning a fairly thin ply because that is what my hands want to do. If I just kind of spin without thinking too much about it, I get this kind of, I guess, fingering weight yarn. This is kind of naturally what comes out of my spinning. If I wanted thicker, I would have to really pay attention, and I kind of wanted this to just be a really relaxing and intuitive process. And I don't know yet if I will ply it. I know I will ply it, but I don't know if I will do a 2-ply or a 3-ply. Probably a 2-ply. I don't know. I probably, let's see, if I do a 2-ply, I will probably end up with sort of a, I guess, a DK weight yarn. So if you can see, it's not super even, and I tend to really like kind of slightly overplied, so maybe it'll end up being more of a sport weight. I don't know, we'll see. I'll do some tests once I've spun all the singles to see. I'm obviously not attached to specific results here, but I am happy. I think the singles are quite even, and I'm really happy with how kind of lofty they are. I'm doing I'm spinning from the fold, which is a technique that that basically has you breaking off a length of yarn and then folding it over your finger like this, and then spinning from that. And what it does is this is all the fibers have been combed one way, and if I was just to spin from there, I would get a very what would be called a worsted. I would spin it worsted because all the fibers are all going the same way, and when it gets spun, it kind of everything lays flat and compact, and so you end up with a very kind of a dense and very durable and very strong, silky, smooth yarn. But because this is Shetland, and Shetland has such a beautiful loft to it, I want to preserve some of that quality. I could, if it was prepared differently, like if I were to prepare all of it into Rolags, I might be able to spin it woolen, and woolen is basically when you spin fiber and the I was going to say the threads. The fiber is not combed all in the same way. It's kind of jumbled up, and so when you spin it, because they're not all going the same direction, they kind of end up being puffier and looser and lighter and kind of tangled. So you end up with a yarn that's much loftier but not as durable. Spinning from the fold kind of is a little bit of a hybrid, because basically you're just taking the one staple length and folding it over. So you get some loftiness because not everything is lying very perfectly stacked up on top of each other. You've got some of the fold there will create some space and make the yarn slightly loftier than a worsted spun wool. And the reason why I'm doing that is because it's already prepared. All the fibers are already all going the same way, so it's just easier for me to spin from the fold, add a little bit of loftiness into my yarn, but not spend a lot of time having to reprocess this fiber. You can buy fiber that is prepared for woolen spinning, but this really is ideally prepared for worsted spinning. So I'm going to add a little bit of poofiness by spinning from the fold, and I find this to be a really easy. It just kind of the twist goes really easily into the fiber, and I'm not pulling back. I'm feeding the yarn, so it's a very controlled, easy way to spin, and I can almost do it while watching TV. Like, it's not something I have to really pay attention to. It's quite intuitive for me to spin that way. So yeah, so anyway, like I said, hand spun yarn for a sweater, very exciting. I don't know how long it's going to take me. I just started this last night, and I've got about half a bobbin done. So yeah, stay tuned for that. I wanted to talk to you about a book that I got for my birthday from my husband, and I have just been soaking in every page. It is a book called Craeft, and it is by Alexander Langlands. You may know him from different BBC television shows like Edwardian Farm, Victorian Farm, that type of thing. He's an archaeologist and historian, and he writes about Craeft, which is an old English word that goes beyond what we today call craft. When we think of craft, we think of either, Michaels with sparkles and glue guns, or we think maybe a more refined version of craftsmanship, so handmade pottery or weaving, that type of thing. But craft is a much wider concept, and maybe I can read this little blurb from the book jacket. When it first appeared in Old English, the word craft signified an indefinable sense of knowledge, wisdom, and resourcefulness. So when he talks about craft, he means not only the technical knowledge that you need to have in order to, let's say, weave a basket, but it is also the knowledge of how you would how you would grow the cane that you would use for your basket, and what type of landscape is good for that type of cane that makes your basket, and what time of year you would harvest it. And it kind of goes into the complexity of not just the manual knowledge, but also the general wisdom of nature, of landscape, of weather, of the seasons changing, and also of using these materials and how long they last and how to repair them, and the anatomy of making a basket and how it would fit on your arm or be used for a specific purpose. It's really kind of the much wider knowledge that you need to make the things that you use in everyday life. And in olden times, people made everything that they owned, or they bought it from people who made it, and all of the materials that went into making those objects were local or were sourced at great expense. They weren't things that, today we buy things that are made out of plastic and are so disposable and don't require us to know anything about them or how they were made. But that knowledge of having things in your life that have deep meaning to you and have a bundle of knowledge wrapped up in the simplest things, like a spoon or a basket or a wool blanket. This book is about that. And he travels to different places around Europe to kind of explore some of the old traditions. One of the chapters, he goes to Iceland, and so there's stuff about sheep farming and the land that was particularly well suited to those kinds of craft activities. There's also a section about spinning. I haven't gotten to it yet, and I'm really looking forward to that one. But he also tries those things out. He learns how to make them himself, and kind of what it means to have that type of physical and mental and emotional connection with the things that make your everyday, and how we've lost that, how we've been kind of disconnected from that. And yeah, it makes you think. It's super interesting. It's really, really well written. You would think that these long descriptions on how to make a bee skep or a fence might not be that interesting, but it really is, the way he writes about it. And if you love nature, it's a lot about that. So I highly recommend this book. This is the British version. My sweet husband ordered this one because he thought the cover was much nicer than the American edition, and I agree with him. This is a really nice edition by Norton in England, but anyway, either edition would have the same excellent content, so I recommend it. Lastly, I wanted to announce the winners of our giveaway. So if you're not interested in hearing about that, I will say so long, and we'll talk to you next time. But for those of you who entered the giveaway and want to find out if you were one of the lucky winners, stay tuned. So first I'll start with the first prize that I talked about, which is some beautiful lacquer brushwork. There are 6 skeins, 1 in blue and 1 in purple, or sorry, 3 in blue and 3 in purple. And I also put them in this woolly thistle bag. The yarn was sent by Blacker. The bag was sent by the Woolly Thistle. She donated another prize, which I will talk about in a minute, but it's worth noting that the Woolly Thistle carries Blacker yarns. So if you're scared off from ordering directly from England because of the shipping and all that, you can order it directly from her. And she has a great shop with all kinds of really beautiful yarns. So visit it at your peril, because every time I go to her website, I'm very tempted to spend all of my money. And then this brushwork is a very beautiful yarn that was sent to me by Blacker. If you don't know, Blacker is a British yarn company, and they use a lot of really special fiber blends. They have a new yarn out that looks amazing. I think it's a Jacob blend, and the colors are really pretty, and I would love to get my hands on some of that. But this is their brushwork blend, and it was done as a 12th birthday blend, so they did a special edition, and it is really lovely to work with. So who is the winner of that one? I picked post number, or I didn't pick, the random number generator picked number 652. So I don't know, did I mention earlier there were 836 entries? So 652 is Chitweed, Chitweed, and her name is Gretchen from Delaware, so congratulations, Gretchen. I will contact you on Ravelry and get your address so I can send this out to you as soon as possible. The next prize is also in the Woolly Thistle tote bag. This yarn was actually donated by Claire at the Woolly Thistle. It's this beautiful tuku, which is Finnish yarn, and there's 2 skeins. One of them is kind of a beige, and this one is a beautiful kind of brown charcoal kind of color. And then I also included a beautiful needle case by Atelier de Soyun and a brooch by Fancy That, Creations by Francine. It's a beautiful shawl pin. So the winner of this prize is Power of Wool on Ravelry, and her name is Annalie, and she's from Sweden. So congratulations, Annalie. Again, I will contact you and get your information to send this out to you. Next, I have some beautiful yarn from a natural dyer, and the company name is Oysters and Pearls, and she sent me this gorgeous natural dyed yarn. It's a really beautiful, sustainable, traceable, superfine Australian merino, and it was botanically hand-dyed. It's super soft, and the color is just a perfect color for this spring. It comes in this naturally dyed project pouch. And then I also have included another gorgeous shawl pin and a pretty little patchwork notions pouch. And the winner of that prize is Klein Witz, and that's Kara from California. So congratulations, Kara. The next prize was donated by the online shop Farm to Cable, which is a great online yarn shop. It's actually in Canada, so if you live in Canada or the States, it's really very affordable to have things shipped from that store. So always good to have a North American source of, again, beautiful natural yarns, a lot of them European. They donated these 2 skeins of Rao work, which is a beautiful yarn that's sourced and spun in Bavaria. And so there's a natural color, cream color, and then a beautiful charcoal, well, not quite charcoal, kind of a medium gray. And so you get 2 skeins of that, and then also another really sweet notions pouch, and also a brooch. I forgot to bring it, I'm sorry, but you'll also win a beautiful pin from Francine. So this is the prize, and it goes to Maisie Pearl, and that's Diane from Ireland. So congratulations, Diane. The last giveaway, last but not least, is a gorgeous skein from the Fiber Company. It's the Meadow blend that they sent to me quite a while ago. It's a gorgeous, I guess, fingering or even lace weight. There's quite a lot of yardage in this. It is, it's lace weight, 100 gram skeins, 498 meters, 545 yards. So you have enough here to make a beautiful lace shawl, and this color is really stunning. And the blend on this yarn is so interesting. It's 40% wool, 20% llama, 20 silk, and 15 linen. And it's incredibly soft, and it's just got a gorgeous halo, so very gorgeous. And then you also get a beautiful shawl pin from Francine, and then this beautiful project bag, which was sent to me by a viewer. Her company name is Anitak, and the fabric has, she's from South Africa, and the fabric features the South African national flower. So, yeah, that's a really beautiful prize. And the winner of that prize, her Ravelry name is Gwywillith, and she is Vanessa from Germany. So congratulations, Vanessa. I will get those out to you as soon as I get your address. And to all the winners, I'm so happy to get that stuff out to you. For the international winners, the ones that are not in North America, shipping is very expensive, so I will be sending it. Unfortunately, I won't be able to send it express. It will go with the sort of most economical option. So it might take, a couple, like maybe a month, maybe even 6 or 7 weeks to get to you. And I apologize, but with 5 prizes, it's just the shipping costs really add up. So I will be sending them your way, and hopefully the beauty of the prizes will make the wait worth it. Anyway, I think that is it for me today. I am excited that spring is coming, even though, as you know, winter is my favorite season, but I can definitely feel the sun, the warmth of the sun, and with daylight savings time, the longer evenings are putting me in a spring mood. So I'm happy to maybe spend a bit more time outside walking Marcel, and I hope that wherever you are enjoying the beginnings of spring. And to all my friends at Edinburgh Yarn Festival, oh, you made me suffer these last few days. Just seeing all of those amazing posts, it looks like you were all having a wonderful time, and it was a pleasure to live vicariously, but I won't lie, it was a bit, I was like, oh, I wish I was there too, but maybe one day I'm hoping that I will also get to go, but it was great to see everybody having a wonderful time, and oh my God, the knitwear. If you're curious, just type in or just put in, hashtag EYF in Instagram, and you'll see just a parade of the most beautiful hand knits and lovely smiling faces. Anyway, I wish you well, and I will talk to you next time. Bye.